what if an executive or somebody needs help with culture building, and ideally they need it now or as soon as possible outside that cadence. So, like a helpline, an emergency, an andon or undul cord. It's like, hold on, we got
Yeah.
to stop this process. We can't wait till next week.
hmm
Uh,
So
so, yeah.
I use a system called Voxer.
Hmm.
And so with that system, they have immediate access where they can ask a question. It's kind of a two-way radio kind of thing where you can send me more of a text message, or if it's too much for a text message, I say, send me a voice recording, and I can respond immediately to that and make the determination, is this something that we need to actually jump on a call for or a video call? But I am absolutely open to creating that time and creating that space that, oh, Kathy, let me tell you what happened today.
Hmm.
And this can set us back or move us forward in figuring that out. So clients do have access for those immediate circumstances.
Right.
Does that
So, yeah. So in a word, then your answer would be on demand.
on demand? Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, that's the main thing I wanted to dig into. And of course, in the real world, and this is why this is a three-part question rather than a one-part question, is since in the real world, as I said, that was ideally, let's talk about the second part. So ideally, how often should that be available? And I believe you've already answered that.
Yeah. So I think it should always be available, and it's up to me to create those boundaries
Hmm.
um, on how often you are using it or how often I'm responding.
Hmm.
So that's why I like those kind of on-demand systems, because as as a leader or coach, it's my responsibility to tell you or to share with you when those boundaries have been crossed. So are you one to just say, oh, well, I have access to her and I just thought about this at 11 p.m. So I'm going to just share this because it's on my mind, versus is that something that could have been waited until, 9 a.m.?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's why I do the same thing, even again, just with my English students and even with my clients. It's like, look, I set up a shared Google Sheet. You can
okay.
put something there anytime you want, but then please notify me with respect to my consulting clients. It would be notify me on LinkedIn via our chat because it's got way less noise. You're not there unless I know you. And as soon as I open LinkedIn, which I do all the time, I'll see and I'll get your message sooner than email. With respect to the app that I do the teaching on, is just like ping me in the chat saying, Tim, please check the doc. So that means they
Okay.
have 724 access, and it's just a free Google Doc, and I will answer it as soon as I'm available and able to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, same idea. So
Yeah.
the third part of that question is, now that we've talked about the sort of the wish list, that is ideally, realistically, how often would be practical and sustainable regarding this kind of support?
Hmm. That's a good question. Um, and I guess it's kind of hard for me to answer because I haven't had a situation where someone actually abused it. And I'm not at a capacity where I feel like I can't keep up.
Hmm.
So I'm just talking and thinking about, what would that look like? And I think customer service in general is so important to me that I would probably extend myself a little more than perhaps I would I should, because I want to make sure that if there's a true crisis, or if there is, a question that I can answer, I am more on demand, that I'd rather answer that now than to wait to do it, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. No, it makes perfect sense. And it shows the same sort of feeling I have about it. Is like, I care enough about my students and my clients that if I am able, I
Yeah,
will be there for them. If I am not, I will not, because yes, I am a human being. I find that sleep is a necessary thing on a daily basis,
yeah,
health, exercise. Yeah. So I have also not run up against it. And as you said, if somebody was truly excessive in it, you could say, well, maybe this isn't the right match. But most people are at least that reasonable to recognize that you need to sleep, eat, and be a human being, as well
yeah,
as to serve their needs.
yes.
So, yeah, it's not usually an issue, I think. Okay, next one is, and we're almost but not quite done, and that is, how do you envision the course, that is what we've been talking about, helping you address specific cultural or leadership challenges within your organization or those of your clients?
Um, I envision it helping because it provokes more conversations in order for people to see a different perspective or have new insight to what's needed to have a healthy workplace culture. And the more we continue to talk about it, the more open people are, because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thing for me, is to keep talking about it. And I envision that healthy conversations provoke, or produce healthy workplace culture.
Yes, certainly. I like that. It reminds me of something, was actually a very rewarding experience, is just to realize something I had exactly zero knowledge of, to, remind us that we're all human, and that's true for all of us. And that was, oh, I was reading some article, and it was like, it turns out that we actually have a blood pressure cycle that goes back and forth across our body. So I
Mm-hmm.
have allergies. And the reason this is relevant is like, why do I sometimes, am I incapable of breathing through one side of my nose, especially when I'm sleeping? That affects how I put my head, and it's just miserable. And it turns out you literally have some kind of blood pressure cycle, that's one side of your body has higher blood pressure than the other. And it was like, I so had no clue that could even exist. This is something I had no clue, that I didn't know. I didn't need to, but it was like, it's almost a pleasure and an honor to say I was utterly clueless that this could even exist in the universe I occupy. It was just a sort of random thing, but it was like, wow, that is something I could have never imagined or anticipated. I
Right.
didn't know, and somebody else certainly did.
Yeah. And now I know, because you just shared that with me.
Yeah. So the next time one side of your nose is congested, it's your blood pressure's fault. Or so I understand it with my 0 degree, my zero medical credential. Next one. Considering the potential impact on your organization, what pricing model, one-time payment, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, blah, 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 would you find most appealing for this kind of training that we've described, or that you've described?
So I am always on a quarterly, because I don't believe real results can happen overnight or within 1 month. So I think a minimum of 3 months is mandatory.
Mhm.
So I am more on the quarterly basis, that after the initial conversations, I have my suggestions. I prefer to work with an organization for a year, because I
Mhm.
think that's going to be the best experience. Because even if it has a healthy workplace culture already, and this is kind of maintenance, then there's some blind spots for everybody, right? So we can only make it better. So my goal is to work with an organization for a year on a quarterly basis.